So, welcome to another episode to the Talking Deaf podcast. And this is an episode I already announced quite a couple of times because, like, the moment I met Sebastian Croteau, I just tried to learn to
Yeah,
not butcher this name. I knew that this will be such an exciting episode. We met each other at the games conference somewhere in Croatia, and I can remember like I was so fascinated by I your voice and what you're able to do with your voice, with everything which is surrounded and the way you present it, and like learning of what you do. Sebastian is actually like a professional voice actor, but very specialized in specific voices. I suppose you will tell us much more about this, and this
absolutely.
and this actually like you will. I'm not sure if you will recognize the voice. I think you could recognize some of the bits and pieces, but I'm sure you will have heard his voice in a specific form in the one game or the other you have played in the past. And with that, I would just directly give it to you for to introduce yourself.
Absolutely. Well, and that's the thing. Because people sometimes tend to forget about it. I'm a metal vocalist.
Yes,
I've been a metal vocalist from 1990.
this
So 35 years ago, I started to sing in a death metal band. And then I went on to sing in another death metal band, basically. And I've been singing at that band since 1993. The band is called Necrotic Mutation. And now we're actually recording our new album. So I
how
started
many
as a metal
albums do you
vocalist.
have?
Oh, we don't have much. Like we have four and a couple of demo. Yeah. We're in the middle of recording. I'm recording the voices. It takes a long time because I'm a little bit busy. It's it's a problem. The thing is, even before that, I was always fascinated by the voices of the villain in cartoon, or for example, Cookie Monster. I remember I had a teddy bear of Cookie Monster because if you listen to the voice of Cookie Monster, for me, he is the original death metal vocalist before death metal, and even sometimes people refer to as Cookie Monster vocal when they hear death metal vocalist, right? And some people think it's offensive. For me, I think it's a compliment because who better than Cookie Monster to embody the spirit of death metal vocalists?
Um,
So when I was listening to Sesame Street, of course, the famous Cookie Monster, Cookie, C is for Cookie. He's using a technique called ventricular folds. And ventricular fold I actually use by metal vocalists and throat singer as well. And I'm going to talk about throat singing in a few seconds. If you listen to the voice of Commander Cobra in G.I. Joe, hey G.I. Joe, attack! He was a black metal singer before black metal was invented.
man,
You know? So for me, I had a thing for the weird voices in cartoon. So that was kind of, like what I'm doing today. Like it was still a little bit there, early on in my early years. And then I started to sing in a choir. I was a choir boy for 3 4 years. I sang, with the beautiful little angel voice. And this gave me some basis, just the basic of singing. I now to project, and now to, of course, it was with religious chanting. That was something else, and it changed very drastically when I went to public school and I discovered metal music. You know, 1 year I was singing Hallelujah, and the year after I was like,
do you forgive me? But do you need to learn classic or like the like normal singer? I don't know how to put it. Like
well, not really. Like the thing is, there was actually a study done in Germany with 75 metal vocalists. And the thing is, one of the conclusion of that study is that you don't necessarily need singing training prior to learn how to,
make this.
engage vocal effect. This was not really common in terms of education. That all metal vocalists went to learn, just regular singing prior to try and do that. Um, So if I go back to my death metal years, started to, of course, listen to bands like Suffocation, Napalm Death, Carcass, Malevolent Creation, Cynic, Death, God, Cannibal Corpse, a bunch of them. And back then, there was no tutorial on how to learn how to do vocal effect. There was no book, no science. So the only way to do it was actually mimicking, right? We were listening to the voice on the cassette because there was no CD. It was in the 90s, so it was cassette. So we were listening to the cassette and tried to replicate the voice. Of course, it was hard because those are overproduced voices done in a studio setting. So it was kind of hard to try and come to the same thing. But, by trying to mimic, we could, arrive at a point where it sounded a bit like it. And then I did that for a while, and then I discovered throat singing. So Tuvan throat singing, Tibetan throat singing, and for me it was amazing because I basically discovered that, even if we think that metal vocalists, they invented something in terms of voice technique for what they do. If you just slow down a death metal scream, if you slow it down, it becomes Tibetan throat singing. And if you do the same, if you go from if you just accelerate the movement of Tuvan throat singing, you have black metal voice. So it's basically based on the same vocal technique with just a slight difference, in speed of vibration and in airflow. But that's about it. So I've learned throat singing, and then I became quite good at harmonic singing, producing overtone and subharmonic. And this is where I really started to play with my voice. And in 2005, a friend of mine working for Ubisoft Montreal asked me to meet an audio director because they wanted weird voice for their creature. And I, at the first meeting, and I went there, and I wasn't aware at the beginning of the production cycle in a video game. So I waited 8 months for them to come back to me. And the thing is, I thought that I totally blew the meeting. I was like, maybe they didn't like me. But 8 months after, they came back to me like, hey, are you available in 2 weeks for a recording? So that was my first contract, and it was Far Cry Instinct, the first Far Cry on Xbox. And then after that, Ubisoft rehired me to record choking sound in Assassin's Creed 2. So if you kill someone with a poison blade in Assassin's Creed 2, and then the following 2, that's my voice.
How did it sound? Can you still remember?
The thing is, there's a little anecdote about this one. The description was that person, the character, is choking on his mucus, meaning the poison is making the person secrete more mucus, and the person is choking in the mucus. So in my mind, I was like, it needs to be gross, because it's just sound gross. So I brought honey to make sure that, when I was choking, it was a little bit more like, or bubbly, to make it as if I was actually choking on something. And I did like 40 minutes. I did a bunch of choking sound, and after that, the last 40 minutes, I did takes with the honey to make it even more gruesome, right? The thing is, in voice acting, choking, usually you do that in a recording session for like 5 minutes. That was 2 hours of choking. You can only fool the body for so long. So at some point, I had to stop after every take, and I had a little bucket because after every take, I just wanted to throw up. I didn't throw up, at least. That's the thing. But I had a little bucket just in case. And when I listened to the sound afterwards, they put in the game. They put what I call the family-friendly version of me choking. It's basically just like, not the gruesome take I did with the honey. So that was one of my first lessons in video game recording. What you record might not end up in the game. And I was a little bit disappointed because I was like, I did 2 hours. And I remember the take with the honey. I was like, oh, that was so gruesome. For me, they were beautiful, like gross but beautiful. They didn't end up in the game. So yeah, welcome to video game recording.
Yeah, this is probably, but also the same if you create assets as an artist, as a 2D artist, 3D artist. There's so many things which will not make it. I even worked on a game which never made it. This was also devastating because it was basically the last state of the game for a very big
Yeah,
company, and you see it full fledged and super polished, but it was just not published, and you're not allowed to ever talk about this. So this is, yeah,
yeah.
video game
No, no,
world.
exactly.
But I mean,
It's
if I may interrupt you here, you were just like,
oh, of
okay,
course you can.
back then I was in this metal band, and then I was singing, and then all of a sudden, like, I was making. What was the moment when you learned this way of singing? Because for you it seems like, oh, and then I thought I'm gonna learn this way of singing. Why? First of all, why?
Well,
And back then I think it was like, also now I realized it's not easy to find someone who teach you this specific form of extreme vocals. This is like my personal experience. It's not
yeah,
easy. So like also here I have to have an online coach because it's also in this region difficult to
yeah,
get someone on site. So I think, like, if I look at your HTML per website from necroticmutation.com, from this band exists since the 90s. It's crazy. And back then it was probably super rare when you taught yourself, or did you get
yeah.
it, and how did you, like, did teach you this way of singing and so forth? Sorry for
Again,
bringing you
back then.
back to your
No, 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 no
childhood
problem. No, no.
memories.
Oh, it's fine. I had a wonderful childhood, so it's fine. um, well, back then there was no teacher. There was no YouTube
Mm,
tutorial, no science about it. But like I said, it was basically listening to the cassette, to the voice, and trying to replicate it,
yeah.
right? And of course, at the beginning, when for example, I was trying to imitate suffocation, it's only when I saw him live, the singer Frank Mullen, that I understood a little bit more, because he's copying the microphone.
Mm-hmm.
And copying the microphone provide a little bit more reverb and resonance and make the low sounds even like more, saturated.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but that is something. And the why, why would someone learn how to do that? I think that screaming, and this is what I discovered later on, screaming is therapeutic.
Mm.
As a teenager who is supposed to be feel anger, or, rebel against the world, the government, rebel against his parent, everything, having something where you can channel that anger and make it into something creative. For me, that was really helpful. Because if I look at all my friends who didn't get the chance to do what I did back then, they went heavily into drugs, alcohol. And for me, I had something to channel that. And that was screaming and singing metal music. And I think it brought me a fairly balanced life, when I started. So, and the thing is, after 1 hour of screaming, like, you feel so peaceful, like
Mm.
you don't have any energy anyway to do bad things. You don't think about bad things because you exteriorize everything that was in there through screaming.
Mm.
So that, I think, it's and again, why did I started that? I'm still trying to figure out. you know, Basically, but again, if I go back to the interest I had in weird voices since I was a kid, that was part of it, right? I was fascinated by the capacity for a human to sound like something else.
Yeah.
Because what we hear coming from human is a regular voice, right? But now, with all, like, even in the workshop I give, is I teach people to explore the full capacity of their voice, because our regular usage is this one.
Yeah.
We're chatting. We have, it's something that we do without any distortion, without any vocal effect, without epiglottis vibration, uvula trills, ventricle fold, epiglottis fold distortion. It's fairly normal. But then in singing, for example, in jazz singing, we explore epiglottis fold. In throat singing, they explore ventricular fold vibration, distortion. In death metal, we explore vocal fold distortion, ventricular fold distortion. So for me, it's more about, you know, having the courage to explore all that and realize that the voice has more potential and things to offer than what we use it for.
Yeah. And I this is like not from my personal script which I had in my head, but you're like you're making a point which I'm wondering since quite a long time now. Like also like the recent podcast episodes and a little bit the topics of the past videos I made were all around this topic of metal. Because I mean we talked about this. I mean you're a metalhead. I'm a metalhead, and this is something which I find sometimes still weird that metal is still so has still such a bad reputation for a lot of people, and it's not for some people it's not even considered music. It's not supposed to sound good. It's
Yeah.
only weird people who are listening to metal, or like it's just like with these weird noises, and which I cannot really resonate at all. And I'm just like, I wanted to bring up this point much later, but you actually made this really interesting connection now, that on the one hand you have the death metal voices, and on the other hand, which are considered to be weird noise and not pretty
Yeah.
at all, and then you have this art of throat singing. Why is this one thing considered as culture and art by everyone, and death metal and black
Yeah.
metal? Meh. Sorry for being so.
No,
Maybe
no. It's absolutely like what you just brought is absolutely interesting. So a couple of things about that. Behind any form of vocal distortion, for example, when I do a death metal grunt, right? Yeah. If I remove the distortion, I have a regular voice. So behind the layer of distortion, there's always harmony.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Like metal is like a quest where you need to go through a series of different things to actually find the treasure.
Yeah.
And the quest is basically going through this wall of distortion,
yeah,
this perception that it's, and once you pass that, you can discover that in metal music, there are melodies, there are harmonies, there's beauty,
Yep.
In there. And it's why metal music, because it's so complex, mix well with classical music. How many metal bands are incorporating classical instruments?
Yeah.
Opera singing. Well, it's because those are two. But the funny thing is, we call classical music the intelligent music, and our music the barbaric one. But why barbaric music and intelligent music mix so well? It's because I do believe that in what we call intelligent music, there's an element of barbarism. And in the barbaric music, there's intelligence as well.
That's a thing. Like I don't want to make this like a conversation now about the music and like how people talk about it. But the thing about heavy music, so often it's so artistic. Like you have to be so skilled in like playing the guitar, in the drums, and then the form of singing, because as you just mentioned, you need to be a good singer, but there is an addition to that as well, and this is like and you might want to mix. So I find it quite a weird conversation to have, that we still have to have it and like explain to people, yes, this is art, yes, this is cool, this is something I love listening to and I find artistically and technically super interesting.
Absolutely. But there's one thing also, like throughout the years, what is the first question that usually people ask me if they're not into metal? So they come to see my show, they look what I do, and after the show, they come to me and they ask me a question. It's almost always the same one. Does it hurt?
Does it hurt? Yeah.
Does it hurt? Why? Because in a regular human life, people will use vocal distortion
in the wrong
way. In different negative situations. First, when you're coughing, we will use ventricular fold distortion. When we're vomiting, we will use ventricular fold distortion. When we are angry, at someone and we scream, we're using vocal fold distortion. When we are in pain, we use vocal fold distortion. If we are in an in an urgent, life-threatening situation, we will scream and we will use vocal distortion. So the relation to vocal distortion to regular people is they produce vocal distortion when they're experiencing pain, anger, and sickness.
Yeah.
So when they listen to metal music, of course, you know, one of the things that they think, maybe unconsciously, is that relationship to pain and to anger. And people don't want to go there. You know, we want the good stuff. We want to be happy. The brain wants dopamine. And all those experiences remind them. And I do believe that when they're listening to metal and they're not into it, this has something to do with it.
This is so interesting. And so before to go back to your journey, so before we move to your actual path to video games, because I already mentioned like you were part of so many games we know. You already mentioned Assassin's Creed, but it was also Prince of Persia, Far Cry. It was what else? Spore, Thief, Rainbow Six Siege, Far Cry 5, Shadows of Tomb Raider. Dead by Daylight. I think we talked about Dead by Daylight a lot. And also
done a lot of character Dead by Daylight
and a lot of movies. So this is so interesting. However, before we want to talk about how you got into the gaming realm, what were bands that did inspire you, or things in general that inspire you back then on your path? Because I think you seem to be really shaped by the different creative inputs you had. What did you remember? What was important?
Absolutely. Well, the first cassette I ever bought was Eaten Back to Life from Cannibal Corpse. And then after that, both War Master, I think that was the and after that, Carcass, the first one. And after that, Death Human. And Suffocation, Effigy of the Forgotten. In 1991, I also bought Cynic, which was really different back then because it was a mix of jazz and metal. And of course, you know, when you start to get into death metal, you know, you think that the real music is only like boom, 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 that you don't need any refinement. And Death and Cynic actually brought something kind of new to the old death metal genre. They were doing something really specific. But of course, I enjoy, you know, the Cannibal Corpse. I remember Effigy of the Forgotten, Suffocation. When it was released, I listened to that album every morning on cassette on my Walkman for a year. So, so this album had a huge influence.
Wow.
And of course, I was lucky enough to play with Suffocation back home in Rimouski, to play with Entomb, to play with Napalm Death. Like my first show that I did, we play with the fourth show. The second show I don't remember. I have like, you know, a problem with my memory. But I was a huge band and we're coming to Rimouski. But my fourth show was with Napalm Death and Brutal Truth. We were the opening act.
Really?
And that was my fourth show. Wow. Rimouski, where I'm coming from.
Wasn't Napalm Death the band which is in the Guinness Book of Records for the shortest music video, like shortest songs, 3 seconds or so?
Probably. Yeah. Most probably. But that's the thing, like so all those bands, Macabre, Amorphous, like I could name, like, you know, for me, it's all the classic. And that's the thing, like I listen to new bands and metal, like Lorna Shore and things like that. But I always go back for me to the root of when death metal and black metal started. Like I am enjoying new bands, but they always remind me of some of the things that I already heard back then. You know, so I'm kind of stuck in the past, you know, the oldies but goldies kind of era of death metal. So I'm still enjoying new bands. I listen to new stuff, but most of the time I will just pop a CD from the 90s, and that's where I'm coming from. This is what I love. Right?
I gotta ask this already now. So, what are bands you do enjoy now these days? And maybe also like some of the newer bands.
Yeah. Well, I work with a lot of metal vocalists
Yeah.
in the Monster Factory. Um, so basically, I listen to their stuff.
Nice.
Elizabeth Andrews, Frantic Embers, they release a new album. I'm listening to that, like, because I don't have a lot of time in my line of work with what I do now.
Yeah.
So basically, I don't go out really on social media to seek out new music. And people I work with, like Brita Gertz, like she with her bands, Urias, is that Urias, or like I'm mistaken? Maybe it's like, oh, maybe she has a new one. I'm not sure. I'm sorry, Brita, if you hear this, I apologize. But I'm mostly listening to their stuff. Of course, Lorna Shore, what's it called? See, I'm really bad with new names because I'm listening to it, but sometimes it's just like, because there was something back then. Because we had to order cassette and CD. It was really difficult to be accessible.
Yeah.
And the old difficult to be accessible thing was part of the joy of discovering music. We don't have that now. Like it's accessible right away. So for me, it's like maybe a little bit overwhelming. Like I like the old way of discovering music, where when we were doing exchange with a band or demo, sometimes we needed to wait 2 months for us to receive the demo. And there was this whole ritual about opening the demo, smelling the demo, smelling the paper, reading the lyrics. And nowadays, because at the rate of how fast music is consumed, like I don't have that anymore. So this is why probably I tend to go back to those, to an older time in metal. Was that old thing was part of, the pleasure of waiting.
It is.
Now
it's ridiculously hard. Yeah. So do I hear this correctly? We cannot follow your band on TikTok.
No. Like that's the thing. Like even regarding the social media, the way that I use them, like I don't want to become a content producer, basically because I don't have time. So I mostly share stuff about the Monster Factory, because usually that stuff is aimed for a game dev, audio director, sound designer, but also for voice talent who wants to learn that. So I use them. I don't use them for music. I use them for, the Monster Factory. So the Monster Factory has a TikTok, but Necrotic Mutation, no TikTok, And the thing is, when you share stuff on TikTok, for me, there's also a thing about ownership. Using social media means that, you own a little less your music and what you have and what you build as an artist. And for me, like that's something that I don't want to easily give up. And because this has become so standardized, with what's it called, Spotify, where they pay you, ridiculous a low amount of money for how many, like, for me it's like devaluating the whole thing. And I don't want to do that. I don't want to put it on social media for, like, we have a website, we have a YouTube channel. But if you want to enjoy it, you can still listen to it, but you have to buy the vinyl or the album or even the cassette. For me, this is the way that music, and even for myself, like I don't listen to Spotify. Like this is my DVD collection, but I have a CD collection. I'm still buying CDs. I'm still buying vinyl, because for me, that's how I've learned. And I don't want to criticize the new generation for learning how to consume, music differently. But for me, like listening to a compressed MP3 version of I love my CD. I love my cassette. I love my vinyls. I love my book. I cannot read something on an iPad. I need to read a book to have the whole experience of the book. Yeah.
So next time we'll see each other, I'll bring you a proper vinyl of our band, exchange, and
Of
Would
course.
love to get one of yours.
Next time, I'm gonna bring you the 2 vinyl that we have. Definitely.
So back to your journey. So you then you learned basically like you got into the realm of music. What was then the path into games? And were you a gamer? Like did you play video games?
Oh, absolutely. Well, if you look up here.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So
wow.
I'm gonna try and make sure my camera is reset. Okay.
Yeah, I would love to ask for a room tour now. Actually,
So I have all my retro gaming console or in a glass display, because I love it, and I have all the boxes, Coleco, Atari, Intellivision, 1981 still working, Atari. So and the first console that I actually played on was ColecoVision in 1983. I was 8 years old, and I was hooked. So I played a bunch of Coleco. I still have. Wait a sec. Where is that? Yeah. I have to show you this.
Wow. Okay.
So I played that quite a bit. I played that one with my sister quite a bit. Mousetrap.
Wow.
Ladybug.
This is amazing.
And of course, Donkey Kong Jr.
I didn't see that coming. this is like I'm just saying that chat also requests a room tour now. This is like forget the music and everything. We would love to get just to know your house.
I have a huge collection of retro gaming console. I have 17 gaming consoles.
Really?
Yeah, and they're all working. Of course, the latest, but yeah, some of the oldest too as well. And I have a bunch of, cassette. If you go on Atari, some like this. Of course, Atari, His Revenge.
Did you have them prepared for the stream now, or just like really next to you?
Oh, they're next. Like this is my man cave.
Amazing.
Basically, I'm in my dining room.
Amazing.
Right? This is my man cave. So basically, I have my DVD there.
Yeah.
My music, all my CD are on this side. My Blu-ray and my video game are on this side.
Would it be super weird to ask you to, if you want to move the camera and show us around?
No, it would be too difficult with that
okay.
camera.
So we need a future podcast episode, just you taking us through history, I think.
Yeah, but I have, and again, all the after that, I have Nintendo, of course, Mario. Like I have. And I still play them. That's the thing. Like I bought an adapter so I can connect it to my 4K TV, and it works. So once in a while, nostalgia, I just like bing, put that in there and just play some game. So of course, if you're asking me, am I a gamer? I'm a hardcore gamer. Really
I did forget the question. You're right. I was already like we're a little bit blown away at I absolutely forgot how we got there, but I see you were a gamer. Can you remember your first games?
Well, the first game I really played. Whoops, sorry. I'm actually writing something in the chat, but it's just because my end just touched a button. But anyway, I'm not gonna. So just a sec. I think I'm a little low. There you go. It's gonna arrange the camera. All right, I think it's better now. The first game I remember playing was Ladybug.
Oh. And now you have.
And my sister, which is older than me, my sister was amazing. I remember once she went to level 75. It was insane. So Ladybug, I still remember the music. And the basic sound effect that went to there. And when you were finishing a level, there was that little music. And then I remember after that, I was playing baseball. I still have, the joystick, baseball joystick of Coleco that you could select different kind of pitch. And so I played a lot of that. And after that, Zaxxon, which was sci-fi, a little. And then after that, I went to Nintendo because my neighbor had a Nintendo, so it was bringing up so we could play Mario, of course, Zelda, the first two Zelda on Nintendo, Mega Man. Like I remember playing Mega Man like a lot. Fex Xanadu, Star Tropic. Like I could name, I still have a bunch there. Contra, Ninja Gaiden. Like I played all of them. Like that's the thing. Like on Friday night, because there was video store where you could rent movies and video, right? So after school on Friday, we were running to that place just to make sure that we could rent for the weekend a game. And we were lucky when there was a password, because sometimes you cannot finish a game in a weekend. Like we were younger, so we're not. So we were so appreciative of when there was password, so we could note the password and then hopefully rent that game the following weekend and try to finish and complete the game. So that was there, and then I bought a Sega Master System. So of course Wonder Boy. I played quite Ninja Shinobi. Those game I played quite a bunch. Which was the wait a sec, because I have a Space Harrier. This
Amazing.
of course Shinobi, Wonder Boy, Afterburner.
Oh, look at
Like
this.
I played all of these, and I remember there was Rocky. I bought Rocky as well. There was a boxing game that you could actually play. And of course, after that, there was a Super Nintendo, Nintendo 64. Like Zelda, Ocarina of Time, GoldenEye. Oh my God, how many games of GoldenEye and Mario Kart I have? Like we were gathering a bunch of friends, ordering pizza and beer, and just like being in a room and sleeping in the same room just so we could play all weekend long, play Mario Kart, drink beer, eat pizza, and then play Ocarina Zelda. That was the whole, before online multiplayer. Like we had multiplayer, but you had to be in the same room. And I absolutely love that period of time where you needed to see some people in the flesh to actually play multiplayer on video game. So, and then after that, one of the games that actually hooked me on role-playing game was Final Fantasy VII. And I remember when the game was released, I was in a store. I was probably like 19 or 20 years old. And I had no money. But I was like, maybe I can ask for a credit card. So I went to do the background check, got approved, and I bought the PlayStation 1 and Final Fantasy 7. I was like, screw this, I'm buying it, which I did. But oh my God, that game, I had so many time where I started a new playthrough because I discovered that I miss some of the stuff. And me, I'm a completionist. And to be honest, it's a nightmare when I play a game. I need everything, and sometimes it's not possible. So it's like, it bugs me. It's like having a little window opened up in my mind, and I cannot close them until everything is done. I've learned to now just play a game, for example, just to listen to the sound we did. But a lot of time, those are final bosses and things like that. So I need to still play the game, but I don't have the time to find all the little thing here and there. I just go straight for the monster. But I'm a completionist, and it's because Final Fantasy VII. So many playthroughs, so many times where I discover, oh no, I missed that materia. So I need to go back to have the master materia. So yeah. So my last game of Final Fantasy VII, it's actually 99 hour, 99, the most amount of hour. At some point, the clock doesn't work because it's the most amount of time you can spend on that game. And even Skyrim, I have 500 hours.
I gotta I always thought this was a me problem, but for me, every single game I started, and for some reason I did not have time to finish, And same for books, are like are stuck in my head. Like I
Yeah,
will do this at some point, and I have such a terrible memory. I cannot remember things which happened 5 minutes ago, but I do remember all those things which are still missing. This is so weird. So this was so lovely to just hear that there might be another brain being super weird in
you're
this
not
world.
alone. You're not alone. Believe me, like all the games that I've played and I haven't complete 100%, I know.
Amazing.
And it's still in there somewhere. And it's like, oh, it's a
Amazing.
little bit frustrating. But now I've learned how to let go a little bit
Mm.
because professionally speaking, I need to play a game when there's monster, creature, alien. So it's also research for what I do, right? To listen to the different vocal archetypes, listen to the different sound that people create for specific characters. It's the same reason why I still buy movies with alien, with creature, with horror and monster because
Yes.
I want to listen to the audio. So it's part of my job. And also, it's tax deductible.
And we'll cut this. We'll cut this. We have to cut this. No, but and this brings us back to your journey. So you are into music. You start listening to heavy music. You play video games. What was your path then into the game development realm, or like to actually did you have actual music lessons at some point, or did you go to a
Yeah,
specific music school? How was your path there?
actually, when I was in primary school,
Hmm.
it was a private school run by nuns. So this
That's
is
why the
why it makes sense
choir the
being a choir boy. And we had music training from grade one. So basically,
wow.
grade one, I was playing the flute. Grade two, the clarinet.
Mm.
Grade three, the trumpet. I started to play piano and then guitar, and then so there was this whole musical education
Hmm.
plus me learning singing as a choir boy. So that was a huge part.
Yeah.
So music have always been there, but when I started to do voices for video games, for me that was a hobby. I would never think in 100 years when I started to do that this could actually be a job.
This is it's also funny, like if you ask now a 6-year-old boy, what do you want to become when you're old, and this would be the nun asking this question.
Yeah,
I want to make the zombie sounds. This is how I want to.
yeah. The thing is, most of the market for a creature and monster sound are done. Most of the sound are done with animal sound library. Like if you listen to King Kong, the 1933 black and white movie, it's tiger sound, right? So people for almost 100 years have been using animal sound for creature and monster sound. So of course, monster and creature voiced by human, it's fairly even if I've been doing it for 20 years, it's fairly recent, right? So I would never expect it like this could become a thing. But over the years, you know, one contract every 2 years became one contract every year. One contract every year become one contract every 6 months. One contract every 6 months became one contract every 3 months. And now basically I'm recording almost every week or every 2 weeks for different projects.
Mm.
So it took 20 years for me to develop the network and the market, not only for me, but for other people,
Mm.
because I made other people work on the games, on the games with me. So this is why at the beginning, in a market that is not developed, that was really hard to kind of actually try to project yourself and just go like, oh yeah, that's going to be my job. And even today, in order to make it work, I do voice design. So for example, if a company doesn't have any idea of what should be the sound of their creature, so we do prototyping, voice design. In Marvel Guardian of the Galaxy, the video game, I invented 5 alien languages based on 80 pages of script in English. So that's the kind of thing we do now. So voice design, we do casting, we do recording, we do voices. I do voice direction, we do sound design, and I give a lot of workshop and private lesson. So my job is not one element of that thing. I could not make a living just doing voices for a video game. I have to have everything else around to make it work, to make it a job. But for me, the job is vocal effect for creature and monster, and everything revolves around that. So it took a while before I could consider that, not a hobby. And this is basically when I realized that this is where I created the company 5 years ago, because this is where the demands were coming like stronger and more often. And I was like, yeah, maybe instead of being, a voice actor looking for work, maybe I'm going to become a service provider and being able to provide a service to the video game industry. That's the move I did.
And now you have basically your own company with extremely like so many talents. I cannot remember the number, but I was really a stunning number.
Close to around 80 now.
80.
Around 80 different voice talents,
because all around the world doing extreme voices. I showed earlier, like you had also like in your video. I'll make sure that I add the YouTube page to the show notes. It's quite interesting. You have a video where you also showed those zombie choirs and how you produce the different zombie sounds. Like also like if there's how do you say this in English, when there's a mass of zombies coming to you?
A horde.
A horde is coming to you. And also like this was created. Maybe you can now talk a little bit about also the Monster Factory.
Yeah. Like I said, we are an audio service provider, and we specialize in monster and creature sound. But not only that, like, because we're doing a lot of human character in Dead by Daylight, for example. In a recording session, even for a human character, a lot of time, probably like 30% of it, 40% of the recording session will be projected voices, screaming because you're dying, screaming because you're on fire, screaming because you're in pain, screaming because you are getting electrocuted. So the capacity of metal vocalists to sustain for a long period of time vocal effect is actually pretty useful in there. So we also do more humanoid human character as well. So but everything that is related to vocal effect, this is really our area of expertise. So and like if you look at the last 20 years, the type of character we did, of course, zombie, demons, but for example, in Genshin Impact, we did cute creature, the Saurian. So there's something also is that we can use vocal effect to not only do like stuff from our movie, right, or stuff from L, but also we can use vocal effect to create different kind of character. Most of the time people come to us when it's something alien or disgusting or like, that lurks in the shadows, but we can do other things as well. So creating, and the thing is, when the pandemic started, I got sick from my job. I was on sick leave for 6 months. And when it was the time to come back, I was like, okay, I'm going to go back to a job that's probably going to make me sick again because of all the stress, because everything that was related to that. Or I'm going to quit my full-time job. I'm going to quit the comfort of a good paying job to try and make everything I can to make this work. So I chose, at the age of 46 years old, financial insecurity over financial security. And the thing is, I remember exactly when I took that decision. And for real, I had the Elvis song, "It's Now or Never," playing in my mind. And I was like, I imagined myself older, and I was like, I don't have a lot of regret in my life. Like I was lucky in my life. I led a beautiful life, but I would have regretted not to try and make this one. And that's when I decided I took the leap of faith. I was like, okay, all right, what do I do to make this work? Right? So traveling, going to video game conferences, and and so everything I do with the workshop, and of course over the years the network that I built, because that's the thing, like video game industry, like other industry, creative industry as well, but it's full of passionate people, and I'm passionate about it.
Hmm.
And passionate people respond to passion. So when you hear someone talking about something that like uh, 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 um, that they have passion for, people respond to that,
Yeah.
right? So that is something that is, I know when I meet a client for the first time, like you can see there's something lighting up in my eyes when I talk about this. And they respond to that. And a lot of times they tell me, like, well, we can't wait to work with you. You're so passionate. Like, yeah, but, passion without knowledge and experience is just passion. So there's also the part where you need to be knowledgeable about what you do. You need to have experience in recording and voice direction. Like, I have to be good at a lot of things. I wear a lot of hats. Also, I'm not just like the voice. I have to do accounting. I have to do boring stuff like in voicing, to do quote, to do accounting, to do like, like, I create by passion, but I have to manage by default because I need to manage this. So I'm also a talent agency. I'm representing the voice talent as well. So I need to do all that in order to make it work. But the thing is, I can say one thing. I'm probably the only person in the world that can say, I live off creature and monster sound.
Yeah. I
Everything surrounding it, but there's not. I don't know. I know other voice actors or they're in creature sound, but they're not doing only. They're not doing only that. They do a bunch of stuff around. I just do that, and it's my job.
You know what I really admired about you and your path, and when we met, was actually that you created your story. You created the exactly what you wanted to be and the place you wanted to be, the job you wanted to have, and I find this highly admirable. I find your journey so interesting, and what you just said was so smart and so important when you mentioned you were whatever years old, and when you said no, I want to do something different now because this is not making you happy, but it might not be, you might regret it, and it might not be stable. But the thing is, like, no matter what age we are, like every change and learning something new and so on and so forth, this is always, it's always uncomfortable. And
Yeah,
but the thing is, like, if you will ask yourself in 5 years, you're just 5 years older, and you probably still want to either change the job or you want to learn something new. But then you're just 5 years older. So no matter what age you are, it's it will be always uncomfortable. But the earlier you make decisions that
yeah,
lead you to a new path, to learning something new, the faster you will be at the path or at the station where you want to get to. So yeah.
absolutely. And the thing is, you know, I'm quite used to discomfort because the path to learn vocal effect, discomfort is always part of the training process, right? So for me, there's a relation to my way of thinking about, okay, I chose to be financially insecure. I'm still in, I reinvest, and that's the thing, I reinvest most of the profit in the company. Like my yearly income is basically just enough to pay for my rent. Like I don't do any crazy stuff. I
You
work all the time.
you don't do crazy stuff, but you showed us just like all your old consoles and your crazy collection.
I bought that a while ago. Okay.
It's like I spent all my professor money on Lego. I'm not like
All that is when I was living with my mom. Okay. I bought this stuff when I didn't have rent to pay and all that stuff. All right. Because I moved really late from my mom because I always had an amazing relationship with her. I think I left, I was 36. for 37, something like that. Yeah. So all this stuff I bought way before. Now, like, it's rare that I'm actually buying something. But that's the thing, like, I still make a lot of sacrifice. I basically work 70, 80 hours a week. On the weekend. Like, I don't remember what a weekend is.
How do you
Like, you know what?
still how do you still cope with um okay, you are opening up like several questions now. So you work so hard, and I know, like, there's always in games, there's always a little bit this contrast. We do so much, and we might do too much actually, because
Yeah.
games are our passion, which can be also a little bit of a difficult, dangerous, and dark road to go. On the other hand, how do you cope with mental health and
Well,
balancing and
I did 2 burnout prior in my early years.
okay.
The last one, I was 1.5 years, in fetal position on my couch crying. So now I'm much more aware of my limits.
Yeah.
And I've always been passionate about a lot of different things, about metal music. But back then, I was actually working for a group of small venue in Montreal to actually, make sure that we could be recognized as being part of the culture, because all the money coming from the government is going to the big place. And if artists have a place to start, they need to have a place to start, right? So I worked for years to actually make that recognized in Montreal and in Quebec. So I was always really passionate about what I involved myself into. But I've learned that there are limits, right? So for example, because I get up very early. Every morning it's like 3, 4 a.m. I'm up and I'm working. Because this early,
At
everything is
3,
quiet.
4 a.m.
Yeah.
And when do you get
Every
to
morning.
bed?
Oh, really early, like around 9.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm, Papi going to bed pretty early.
Yeah.
Usually when I travel, it's different. I can, go out and mingle. But when I'm here, so I can work from, let's say, 4 to 11 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
I already almost did, a day of work. And I take care of usually the bigger task, the one that requires me, the more thinking or the more planning. Then usually around from 11 to 1, I take a break and I play video game and I watch movie, or I do a little, I rest a little.
Because then you already worked
And
7
then,
hours. It's crazy.
yeah.
It's 11 and
then
you
what
worked already 7 hours.
Yeah. And then what I do after that, I start taking on tasks that are not too heavy.
Yeah.
I do little things and then I take another break for dinner. Again, I watch movie or I play a bit of video game. And then sometime later on from 7 to 9, before I go to bed, I still work on other stuff.
And what about sports or any other, maybe?
A 3-hour recording session
Yeah, okay.
is a full body workout, because it's not only physical, it's vocal, it's everything. You move, but you have to be careful not to move too much to hit the microphone and stuff like that. But it's highly physical. So for me, having like 2 recording sessions a week, I've done my workout.
Yeah, interesting.
I've done my work, and I teach like probably 10 hours every week. So it's 1 hour of me screaming. And that's the thing, like by teaching, I can actually maintain, my capacity to produce vocal effect, because I need to do them when I teach. So, but that's about it. And then I've been doing that consistently for the last 3 years while traveling, while doing contract, and doing all this stuff while building giving private lessons. And last year I traveled 96,000 kilometers.
And how is this not taking you to a burnout you already had? What is now different?
Because now I take time for myself here and there.
Yeah, perfect.
And because a lot of time you go into this and you don't take the time to take small break. Sometimes just 5-10 minutes. Yep. Just take your mind off something. focus on something else. Sometime for me, like for example, after this interview, I will probably, eat a little bit, check my phone. Like I'm still gonna work, but it's very mellow. Check my emails if I have anything, and then start thinking about maybe my next video. But for me, it's not like trying to write a document and do a quote. And so those for me are harder tasks. So basically, with experience, you learn how to manage the different type of task that you are doing, and you try to balance to make sure that okay, you need to take care of urgent things.
Yeah.
For me, that's early in the morning.
Yeah.
Where my mind is really active. When I'm like, oh, boom. Because me, when I wake up, like, I cannot go back to bed. Like, I'm like, okay. And one coffee, and I'm like ready to go, right?
This is,
But then, again, later on, I take on tasks that don't require that much work. But it's just like, you need to take care of them. Otherwise, again, remember what we were talking about, too many windows open on a computer, the computer slow down. So we need to take care of all the little things. So it's more about finding balance now, which I didn't have when I was younger. This is why the burnout, because I was just full throttle, no break. I'm just being overworked, overstressed, spread thin, like butter on a piece of bread. I still do that, but I control more what I'm doing. But I have to give myself some break.
And I think what you said, you seem to really know yourself, where you say what is your mental state, when do you want to work on what sort of tasks, and also the process that you learn how your brain works and how your capacity works. I think this is very smart.
But that's the thing, you learn that unfortunately by trial and errors.
Yeah.
Right. So at some point you have to go, and I don't mean to say that everyone should have a burnout, right? But by having one or having two, like at some point you learn, like, okay, it's like when you go up a mountain, if you're taking a road and there's a problem and that road makes you fall, like you learn not to go through that road again.
It's like if I may add, it's better to not fall, to just look down and see, oh wow, this way we should not go and exit the other way earlier. This would be the best case. But just my train of thought.
No, but you're right in the sense that we don't need to fall to learn that. But I do think that when it does happen, like, we can learn a lot about ourselves and our limits. It's only when we push our limit that we learn when they are, unfortunately.
So what were the most fun projects you worked on? So speaking of limits, because I mean, I know already some of the projects you worked on, and I'm asking the question for specific reasons. But what projects were for you the most interesting, the most fun ones, the most memorable ones?
Well, you're kind of asking me, which child do I love the most?
You see why I'm asking this question. I mean,
No, I understand exactly. But for me, like, I love everything I do. But if we want to go specific, right? The game where I had to be the most creative, and that we were onboarded early on in the creative process, that was Marvel Guardian of the Galaxy, where, we created all the sound, all the voice design, all the creature vocalization, or the alien language. And for me, like, I love just going in a studio. If you ask me, like, go do a zombie, I'll go do a zombie. But if you give me the possibility to bring something to the table and be creative and think about stuff, like, that was the one that allow us to do that kind of thing, to work on voice design and to be more creative. So for that specifically, Marvel Guardian of the Galaxy. Of course, if we go, for example, by franchise, being the first human to do the voice of Alien, the xenomorph, because before that, it's animal and elephant sound, baby elephant sound, or sound design. In Dead by Daylight, I'm the human base
Yeah.
for what they did. So for me, if you ask me the top five character that I would love to do, Alien, the Predator, it's there. I maybe someday, and of course, a few other. If we go by what type of game, for me, Star Wars Outlaw. I always dreamt of doing something, whatever in Star Wars. I did Trandoshan and Quarren, and also a droid in Star Wars Outlaw. But just for me being attached to Star Wars, that was just absolutely fantastic. And I remember because one of the junior voice designer working on the game, I was training her to practice some vocal effect because I assumed that prior to hire people to do the voices, they wanted to do some tests with different vocal effect to see if that would work in the game, right? But I remember I never told that person like, hey, hire me. I just joked at some point, just like, hey, if you need anyone to do the sound of a trash compactor, or pew pew, like I was like, I'm there. But that was the only moment where I mentioned like, hey, I would love to work on the game. And that's one thing, because working as a service provider, because I had experience with other service providers who are too pushy about their services. And they're really like, oh, you should hire us, we're the best, like do this. And for me, that was never my strategy. I just go meet people, network. Maybe we're gonna end up doing something together, maybe not. That's not the end game for me. The important thing is to network and meet new people. Maybe something gonna happen, maybe not. I don't care about that. But I never go like, hey, you need to hire us. Like, I'm just there. And sometimes when they ask you the question, what you do, like, yeah, this is what I do. They go, oh, and then they're curious. But that's the thing. If you're forcing that curiosity, I don't think it gives good result. But if that curiosity comes from a natural, conversation just between two people, I think this is more genuine. Before being a business relationship, it's a relationship. And I think that people don't take enough time to build that part, which is for me the most important part.
Yeah.
The relationship with other people.
Oh, this is nice. This is nice. I I
you know,
did
I'm an old man. Wisdom, pearl of wisdom.
I did have a smart follow-up question which I lost, but maybe something which I want to also mention, because it could be relevant to the listeners, and I find this also so smart because I feel like also the way you present that, you as a service provider now, or how you set up your business and the strategy around that, also the step that you created a library, a specific you're creating different libraries now. Maybe you want to share this. This could be
you mean sound libraries?
Sound libraries or voice libraries. Then I think this could be super interesting because I find this extremely relevant in this. How do you say? Like the games industry is changing a lot, and there are so many different strands. And one big strand is that there's a lot of people experimenting now with games, and who might not have the capacity to hire someone, but still want to have like cool professional sounds. And I think like assets are a great way to do so. And maybe you want to
absolutely. The thing is, there's a reality when you're a service provider, is that no company has the same budget. You have the AAAs, you have the indie, you have so of course you want to try and find something that is accessible, depending on the budget that you have. I've been lucky enough when I started to work in video games to start at the AAA level, and I work on indie stuff, but I'm mostly busy with AAA video game. And when I travel, for example, to go to video game conferences, like one of the things that I would love to do, but I don't, is to go to the indie game section and start talking, because most of the time I know they're not going to have the money to actually hire us, right? Because we're not cheap, we're affordable, but we're not cheap. not after all the years that we've been doing this. This is really like a specialty, a
Mm.
special skill that we have in this sort of compensation, fair compensation, right? So when you acknowledge the fact that nobody has the same capacity to pay for stuff, you're like, okay, what can I do to make the incredible voices that we do affordable? For example, for indie game developers. And that's where we started to record sound library. So you have the same voice talent that AAA video game use, the same expertise, but in a sound library, which costs way less.
Yeah.
You know, the one we did is 20,000 sound, the first one, and it's zombies, because zombies are the most
20,000
popular.
sounds. This is amazing. This is so many.
Yeah, but the thing is, because when I started to research, sound libraries, one of the things that I noticed is that there was a few one, but with really generic action. And the thing is, in a video game, the action of the character will change from project to project. You have the usual suspect, right? Breathing, walking, running, attack, pain, idle, death, those things like that. But the thing is, from experience, I know there's a lot more. So what we decided to do was to do 25 different actions, right? The
Mm.
first one. So 25. And also there's another thing, like there's not a lot of variation. So you have one attack, two attack, three attack, four. And for me, like one of the things that I wanted to be able to provide is diversity. Like you listen to the different variation and you choose. So give people choices, in terms of what they want to put in the game. And the other thing we did, which was a little crazy, is that because zombies have four different vocal archetypes, meaning four type of voices that can be associated with them. You have the, let's say, Walking Dead zombie. This one, you have the Days Gone zombie. If you listen to Sound of the Horde, some of them are doing aggressive sound, meaning inhale. Like that. You have the human aggressive zombie or infected 28 days later, like that, which is more human. And you have the big zombie, The Last of Us and stuff like that. And of course the clicker, but the clicker, like if you try to do clicker for zombies, people will think about The Last of Us. So the clicker sound can only be done, in The Last of Us game. Maybe for some different character, but that's something else. But so there's four main vocal archetypes. So what we did is we recorded all the four vocal archetypes because we don't know if you're zombie, you want them to sound like The Walking Dead or like something else. And what we did is we made sure that each action and each variation were layerable in the sense that if my first zombie for variation number one for an attack does the aggressive, the big one, and the other one, so they all sound the same, starting with the same consonant, ending with the same vowel, having the same length. So you can actually do more than a zombie if you mix all the four layers of voices. And this required me to build a phonetic script because most of the stuff I do, we don't have any script. We just have to convey emotion and different action with sound, right? We don't get to talk a lot in Monsterland, in what I do. So I developed a phonetic script to make sure that when we need 20 variation for one action, that we can go through the variation easily and don't think about too much because it becomes something that is really a mental process while still being a performance process. You still have to perform, but you also have to think and to come up with your own script. So I had to build that in order to record that and use that. So that's the first one. And we're releasing a second one with horde sound. So we recorded the same four vocal archetype, but this is, a horde behavior. So we recorded things that are related to horde because a horde will behave differently than a single zombie. So now we started to do that, and we're going to release two more by the end of the year. So we started to do that because, again, indie game developers, they deserve good sound. If they don't have the budget to hire us, well, we have something to offer them.
This is so amazing. Like, I'll make sure to have this also in the show notes. This is because, again, like, I find this makes it so much more accessible. And as you mentioned, like this, I think everyone wants to be able to pay in a fair way, but sometimes you just can't.
Yeah.
But as you say, if you have like things like these, you can find a compromise. This is really lovely.
Absolutely. And the reality is you have to be adaptable. And one of the main problem, like the reason, and again, I'm lucky to work with, on big IP and big project. A lot of time when I have that first meeting with a client, one of the things that they tell me, their experience with working with bigger service provider, is that at some point, they don't know who's working on their stuff. There's so many people. And the bigger the structure, the more costly it is because, as a structure, as a company, you have to pass the cost of your structure down to your client. And this is why one of the decisions that I made is to stay small. I'm a small mouse. And if you look
with
at
80 talents all around the world and voice small is a difficult term, but
but small in terms of when I work with a company, I'm there at the beginning and the middle and the end.
Yeah.
I don't hire a bunch of people again to augment the cost of my services because the market for creature and monster sound, like I said, it's animal sound library will cost $300 or $400. So I have to be careful not to charge too much so people go back to animal sound library, right? This is one of the reality that I have to deal with. But you have to be adaptable, affordable, and be able to move fast. And moving a bigger ship is harder than moving a small one. And if you look at the state of the video game industry right now, where we're not experiencing an extinction level of stuff, but it's hard. And when you think about the dinosaur, who survived? The smaller organism. So for me, I'd rather be small and adaptable. I don't want to grow to have 10, 15 employees. I don't want that. I want to be a mom and pop shoe store.
This is such a lovely comparison. This is so lovely.
So I've decided not to grow beyond a certain point and not to do more contract than I can handle. Because I want to put time and focus on what I do.
Before I move to the very last part of this interview, because of time, I have a very specific weird question which popped to my head. Because, you made some very unique sounds already for a very big franchise. Can you do them again, or are they now owned by someone?
No.
Is this your IP? How does this work?
No, I can do them again. It's like, when you hire a voice actor, and you use this voice for a character, well, you can rehire that actor for another character. For example, Dave Fennoy, which is one of the most amazing video game actor I know in the United States. Of course he's doing different character, but you can hear it's Dave Fennoy. But this is imagine if I were to do a zombie for something and I could never use that sound again.
That's why I'm thinking, like if you, because of the clicker sound, right?
Yeah. No, but the clicker sound, again, it's really specific.
Yeah.
I can do, for example, sometime I need to do a spider. But this is not that.
Yeah, we just losing some part of the sound compression, I guess. We got the first part and then it got quiet, but we could see it.
That's one of the things. Zoom, Google Meet, like whenever we're doing some vocal effect, they confuse it probably with background noises and they cut it off.
Yes.
That's one of the things, because I do a lot of online teaching, and with Zoom you have to put sound for a musician on and things like that.
Yes.
So you get some of it. But the clicker is very specific. But that's the thing, like I can do a similar sound for zombies for a lot of different games, because when I sell my voice, I sell my voice for one specific IP
Yeah.
release product. They own my voice on that product. They don't own it
At all.
forever. Otherwise, I would be selling my voice
That,
probably for $500,000.
that's why I was like, huh.
Well, imagine if you have to do something once and you can never do it again. You know, they need to open up their wallet and pay a lot, because that is, you know, the next 15, 20 years, let's say when I started, that were to happen. I was like, okay, I cannot do this voice for the next 20 years. So I'm cutting myself off of all that revenue that I could make of that for 20 years.
Give me all
that
the
is
money
worth
now.
what? Let's say for a zombie voice, $75,000. Okay, like, well, you need to pay $75,000 to get my voice on your project. And of course, they were like, you're crazy, because I can have people doing zombie voice for X amount of money. But yeah, when you're selling something, it's tied to that specific product, not to whatever they want to do in the future.
I'm just brainstorming, but in the chat there's already, we need a second podcast with a room tour, and when is there part 2? so I think we would need to have you back at some point if you want.
Well, the thing is, next time we could go into, for example, what element do I look visually in a creature that influence the voice designer to influence the sound that we will be creating. I could talk about all the little toys that I use. This is, to call a buck. But I'm using that with vocal effect. I'm exploring a lot of different things. Like, for example, this is for kids, right?
Okay.
Right? That little thing. But when you do, like, you can play it to modulate the sound. I have PVC tube, I have cardboard tube, I have a bunch of stuff that I can use creating different kind of effect for a creature and monster. But I'm just saying this to say, yes, bring me whatever you want. I'll be more than happy.
This is exactly what I wanted to hear.
And to answer a question, and we can go into a little bit more in depth about, maybe talk a little bit more about training methods. We briefly touched the surface of what I do, right? Absolutely.
That's the thing, like, we just talked for 1.5 hours, and I just panicked and realized we talked for 1.5 hours and we didn't even touch the topics, which, like, I just explained to the people listening, like, when we met, I was so extremely fascinated because we shared the same hotel at the conference. So every time at breakfast, you were like making those those incredible sounds, and we were surrounded by other people, like being on holiday in Croatia. And we were like sitting at the table. You made all those fun sounds. Everyone thought, I think, either someone just died or it was a lot of those cute creatures. And I was just like, this is just a dream. Like this is like the voices you created. This was so fantastic, seeing what the human voice is capable of. And as a spoiler for part 2, because we really need the part 2, because like everything you mentioned about the science of what is behind this. I'm a scientist. This is like hearing that all of this is backed with science is just like.
Now it's back with science again. When I mentioned,
when you started, everyone thought you're gonna die in 3 years anyway because of throat cancer.
No, exactly. But there was no science. Now we have more than 50 scientific studies about rough vocal effect and
50?
extreme voices.
You have like this is not a lot for science. You have 50 and that's it?
Over 50, touching different subjects like throat singing. For me, I consider that vocal effect. Some are longitudinal study done over 14 years. Some are done, for example, in Germany, 75 metal vocalists. Like, I understand, and this is something that from a scientific point of view, the statistical significance of the amount of participant for vocal effect, it's not that much. One of the things that we learn basically is the mechanism of vocal effect. How those vocal effects are produced and with which part, right? This is what we know, but still, there's still a lot of vocal effects that haven't been researched properly. But in terms of, for example, sustainability, like if you look at all the scientific studies regarding sustaining vocal effect, like it's,
This is. I
that
mean,
much.
you know, I'm a scientist, and it's just like
Yeah.
I'm feeling a new niche of games and games and extreme voice niche studies being brought together here. I
No,
think
no,
we're onto something.
absolutely. And the other vocal coaches that I work with, like I've all studied in vocal anatomy and vocal science. And you ask the question at the beginning very briefly. How do you train for that? Like, do you go on YouTube? My answer to that is don't go on YouTube to learn how to do that
This is what got
because
me. This is what got me when we talked first, because I was one of those persons like honestly, like I have training and as a professional like coaches, and I always had them because I was also scared to learn the wrong things. But I was listening, like watching all those videos and tiny TikTok. You're gonna like be angry at in a second.
yeah, no, but that's the thing. Like one of the problems you can teach basics in about singing or vocal effect, but a YouTube video or a video doesn't give you one thing you actually need to make sure that you actually learn something: feedback. So when you listen to someone who does a vocal effect and you're trying to do it, maybe there's a slight adjustments to be made. There's something in the mechanism that you need to move. That video will not give you that feedback. This is why, when we need to learn something, that we have exam and the teacher is giving us the feedback by grading. And this teaches us that we actually like, oh, I don't know this. Oh, I don't. When we're working with sound, we need that feedback. And the problem is in extreme voices, there's a lot of people who don't know anything about vocal science and vocal anatomy, and they are teaching it with like very unscientific definition
It's like
and
those 10-second
terminology.
videos, like, okay, you gotta do this, and then you gotta do this, and then here, and there we are. And this is like how
No,
you
but,
create
but
the sound. And
I absolutely hate those 1 minute video where they see you, hey, here's 3 things how to sing like this singer in 3 easy steps. And I mean, they don't talk about the years of training they had prior to be able just to do those 3 easy steps. So the way it's designed, it makes people think that it's easy to acquire something that takes years. And again, there's no feedback, and that feedback thing is essential in making sure that you learn that, according to your own voice. Because that's the thing. When you try a sound from a video, that sound has been produced by one voice who has specific characteristic that maybe you don't have, or you don't have the same level of experience, the same amount of work, or the same vocal fold length, the same more prominent ventricular folds. Maybe you have a shorter larynx. All those characteristics are important in defining your voice. So when you listen to someone doing a sound and you're trying to replicate it with your characteristic, it's not going to sound the same. So the one size fits all approach that we see online with extreme voices, I hate that with a passion. And all the vocal coach that I'm working with, you met one? You met Aliki Katriou,
she's
right?
amazing.
So there's a very few people that are knowledgeable in vocal science and vocal anatomy and have amazing ethics of because that is another important aspect. Ethical marketing, the way you are marketing, how you are selling yourself as a vocal coach. And one of the red flag for me is when you make people think it's easy to learn. And when they talk about how to do it safely, for me, I don't like the word safely. Safely means if you follow that exact recipe, you're always going to be fine. For me, training is like a seat belt. It doesn't prevent you from having an accident. It prevents you from the worst of the injuries. This is what training does. And this is why I use the word sustainable and sustainability instead of safety. Anyway, just to say that for me, the best people, the best teacher, are not necessarily the most popular.
Yeah.
Because they refuse to market their stuff the way other people have. And they are really, again, knowledgeable in terms of vocal science and vocal anatomy. And when I hear someone, very popular YouTuber for extreme voices, and that person is saying, well, when you're projecting, you have to push with your diaphragm. If you Google breathing mechanism, you will learn that when you are projecting, the diaphragm is relaxing. Therefore, how can you push with something that is relaxing? You push with the abdominal muscle, intercostal muscle from the lower back. You remember you were talking to me, and sometimes muscle from the pelvic floor. Those are all the muscles that are contracting when you're actually projecting. So when you say push with your diaphragm, it's very unscientific. This is not proper breathing mechanism. And I'm pretty sure watching video about extreme voices on YouTube, you've heard about that. You've heard vocal coaches say, hey, push with your diaphragm. And for me, that is a huge red flag. If that person hasn't got the time or took the time to properly research the subject she or he's teaching about, he's just repeating information he or she heard. For me, that is not teaching. That is being a really good parent.
I think, like, as a professor, as a teacher, something which I find most frustrating sometimes, but this is for general society and not on one specific topic, but resonates very well what you just said, is that we should not tell people that learning is supposed to be easy and only fun, but rather overcoming the difficult parts and keep pushing, and it will be the most rewarding thing. And that we come back to this nature of things can be difficult, and it's okay if they're difficult, but we have the skills and the power to overcome this. And I think this is rather the skill we need to teach.
And the passion.
And the
passion
yes.
too. Because from what I remember from my teacher back when I was going to school, I remember the one who were teaching passionately about their subject.
Yeah.
And I think that being passionate is one of the things that helps you over time to overcome something that is not, that is not easy. So that's the thing. Like a lot of the vocal, not a lot, but let's say some of the in extreme voices, some of the vocal coaches chose to train more with videos, right? And for me, this is a flaw. Of there's one thing that you need to understand, before asking someone, for example, to try and do something. There's a video on our YouTube channel about it. It's called vocal assessment. It's basically asking you a series of questions and asking you to do very specific sound to take into consideration everything that is related to your voice, your vocal health, the pitch you can do, the sound you can do. And that gives us a basis on where to start the training, right? Imagine if you were an athlete and I become your coach and you want to go to the Olympic, the first thing I will do in order to build a tailor-made training program is I do a physical assessment. And based on the result of that physical assessment, I will do a training program to make sure that we are en route for our goal, which is going to the Olympic, right? In extreme voices, we don't take the time to do that. And we're asking people to do a very specific sound without taking the time to actually know all of that, know all, the specificities of your voice, and then working with that to do a tailor-made training program. That is what, that is the thing we should do. And a lot of us are not doing it.
Yeah. Ah, okay. We need a second part with a focus
Yeah,
on
yeah,
those
yeah.
topics. Wow, this is. I have one last question for you, and
Yeah.
then
I'll
we
try
need
to be brief.
and then we need to spoiler part two, because again, like everything you said, like we really wanted to talk about those things, but we talked about so many other things, and it's been such a great and cool episode talking to you. Um, there, so I just lost it. No, there we go. Basically, very very last train of thought. Just in general, books, movies, music, games that inspired you and that you would recommend to everyone who is listening to this. Just general recommendations.
Um,
The easy questions in the end.
yeah. Well, it's not that easy because the thing is we're influenced
Yeah.
a lot by our environment, right? And there's a lot of thing in the environment that can actually influence someone. Basically, for me, I'm going to give you an example. Discovering throat singing made a big difference on Extreme Voices. There's one band that I was lucky enough to actually be a student of the lead singer. The band is called Hun Hurtu. So HUNHURTU. Unurtu. Uh,
Mm.
um, just go and try to. A lot of people know the band The U. That is a throat singing rock band. They did a song in Jedi, one of the Jedi Fallen Order or something like that. So they're highly popular. But for me, like this is a music called an album called Fly Fly My Sadness. And it's just so beautiful. It's a mix of throat singing, but also Bulgarian voices. Bulgarian voices, high, ethereal, angel, and you have the low growl of the tuba throat
Hmm.
singer. Like the mix is absolutely beautiful.
Hmm.
Um, so I would say that album, like Uno to Fly Fly My Sadness, go discover that. Um, book. 95% of all the books I've read were in French. Um, there's a book called Le Petit Prince, which is Antoine de Saint-Exupéry.
The little prince, the kleine Prinz in German, yeah.
Okay, is it Saint-Exupéry? Is that
The
probably? I don't know if it was translated
the
or
little
not. I just know.
prince, like the story about this boy going from planet to planet.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
That for me, Le Petit Prince. If you haven't read it, that is absolutely
Yes.
beautiful. One of the things he says that the things that are essential are invisible to the eyes, and I remember that, and it stuck with me still. Um,
Yes.
that video game. Okay, there's one video game because, like I explained, I have a really busy schedule. So sometime I just need to entertain myself for like 10, 15 minutes. Um, Battlefront 2, hero versus villain. So 4v4. I play that when I need to relax. That game's been released, 6, 7 years ago, and there's still a lot of people playing it because now people want a Battlefront 3, and there was this whole movement about, hey, Battlefront 3. So there was a bunch of new people coming to play Battlefront 2. But for me, when I need to unwind, Battlefront, hopefully Darth Vader is available. So I try to choke the 4 heroes at the same time, which is really difficult. But for me, I just enjoy like that whole thing. So for me, this is a game I go back to. Skyrim, like I just like to go in there, just go around, explore, listen to the music, look at the sky when it's the night, and I still play it once in a while to this date. Um, yeah, I would say those Unurtu, The Little Prince. If you haven't played Skyrim, try it if you like it. But that's the thing, like it might be, you might like something else in terms of a video game. Um, yeah, that's about it.
This was wonderful, and especially like the way how you described how you play Skyrim. This is something which I don't hear too often, but when I hear it, everything is just like beautiful in my head. But like that, sometimes it's nice to use games, also like World of Warcraft I heard already, or Zelda. Just go in there and like you're going for a walk, and you just look around, and then you stop again. And this
Oh
is
yeah. I mean,
so.
one of the funny thing is I've observed in game, like you play a game and the plot is like, it's gonna be the end of everything. It's like you need to save the world, but you have 125 side quests. you know, so saving the world is not that urgent because you need to do all this stuff around.
This is so funny. This is so true. Oh
It's like
man.
it's over. You need to save. Like that world is dying,
But
and then
before
you go
that, you gotta
on and like
collect all the different mushrooms.
yeah, exactly. You go on 50, 60 hours of doing side quests. You don't care about the main quest. Like, but then of course when you come back to the main quest, you're buff. You have everything you need to kill, the villain very fast, and boom, no challenge, right? But yeah, for me, it always makes me laugh. Like when the game starts, it's the end of the world, and then there's like 20,000 side quests. Like, yeah, right.
You gotta find all the monster stunts, everything.
Exactly. Like I have to capture all the Pokemon, right?
Thank you so much. This has been wonderful. This was like
Well,
part
thank
one
you.
out of 125. But I like
that was a side quest.
this was like honestly like usually like I have a catalog of questions, and I think we covered like one which was like, hey, how did you get on this path? Oh, by the way, this
Yeah.
has been so wonderful. Thank you so much, but
Well,
we really need the second part soon, because like
of course.
especially like the also the like all your background knowledge about the voice. This is so
Well, the science,
incredible.
we can talk about the scientific stuff, the way we approach how we do voice design for different types of creature, like the vocal archetypes that are usually attached to different kind of sound. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for the invitation. Like for me, because, you're the one interviewing me, so you kind of praise me in your presentation. But I could say the same about you. Like we met, and you're also really passionate about what you do, and for me, it's again, it's fun when we meet people that are passionate about different things, and not just like it's. Oh, of course, it's fun. Like when I find an audio geek and I can chat, but for me, passion, and when you meet other people that are other passion and they share it with you, I think that is absolutely fantastic. And again, meeting you in Croatia was like, wow, like that is another knowledgeable and passionate person, and it's amazing. So for me, like, thank you so much for having me. It's
Thank you so
a real
much.
honor being part of that and being interviewed by you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And again, like meeting you was one of the highlights. So this
Oh,
is like hearing all like everything which is driving you, and like all the like what you're saying, like all this passion behind that. And especially for me, I cannot underline how important this backing up with knowledge, how important this
yeah.
is. And I think like you said, so many things are resonating, that we need to talk to people about the backgrounds and why things are happening in a way, and not always just take and offer easy routes. And this is, I find, so important. And that's why, like, also your talk, and I give already a spoiler, we would really love to have you around as a speaker also, at some point, hopefully here in one of those
Absolutely.
areas.
I'd be more than happy. Like because that's the thing. This is one of the reason I'm not at Gamescom, because I have a few contract now, a little bit more, so I'm gonna do less traveling in the next upcoming month. But hopefully at some point, I'm gonna be able to delegate, some of the stuff to other people.
Which is
That's gonna
difficult
free me.
if your voice is like one of the products. It's more
Now
difficult to delegate.
well, that's the thing. It's different. That is a part I can delegate, right?
Yeah.
My voice and the stuff I do with my voice,
But
I
the
can
text
delegate other
things you
tasks.
mentioned earlier, and the the evil management things, maybe.
Yeah. No. Again, that's one of the things that you have to be, careful about.
No,
But
we're
mostly, I
opening
think.
another Pandora's
Oh
box.
yeah. Okay.
No.
Okay. Next time.
Next time.
Next time we're going
Thank
to
you
talk
so
about that.
much. Have a
But
lovely rest of the evening. And
absolutely.
yeah,
And same to you. Me, it's still the afternoon, so I'm fine. I still have many hours
many hours. Okay.
to do smaller tasks. But right now, just to, relax, it's not that, our conversation was stressful, but just like to take my mind off my work, I will go play Heroes and Villain and
Oh,
make sure that, I try and push some people with Luke power and Kashyyyk. Like, this is so funny. It's called ledging, which is basically when there's an open space, you can actually push other player
this
and
is
they're following.
this is perfect.
And I love that. I love that. I love
Okay.
doing that.
With
So
that,
I'm gonna do that.
thank you so much. Have fun, and yeah, see you
Thank you
soon.
very much. Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.